Hello everyone, right, we are going to finish Act 2 today. We're doing Act 2 Scene 9. We're in Belmont, a room in Portia's house. So we're bouncing all the way back to Belmont and to Portia again. Okay, so this time Portia has a different suitor. Remember we saw the Prince of Morocco earlier on in Act 2. We're now seeing the Prince of Arragon. Who is from Spain. So very quickly, I want to draw your attention to his name. The Prince of Arragon. Arragon was probably chosen on purpose because it sounds like arrogant. So it's immediately exposing some flaws in the prince's temperament. Flourish of cornets, enter the Prince of Arragon, Portia and their trains. Nice and dramatic from Shakespeare again. We've got a dramatic prince entering, wanting everyone's attention on him. He's about to make a really important choice. Portia is then showing him the caskets. Behold, there stand the caskets, noble prince. Again, she's reminding him if he fails, if he does not choose the correct casket, he has to leave immediately without speaking more, please. Portia is already tired of him. This is supposed to, again, introduce some comedy into the scene. It'll be very similar to the Prince of Morocco scene, whereas, like a sense of comedy because the audience know that Portia does not want to marry this person, is hoping that they make the wrong choice. And as the play has already been set up for Bassanio and Portia to have this love story, we as the audience are obviously feeling as though this prince is also going to make the incorrect choice and therefore might be a bit funny. Okay, so the prince is talking here. He's making sure he understands the seriousness of the riddle. Okay, I am enjoined by oath to observe 3 things. I promise to observe 3 things. First, never to unfold to anyone which casket 'twas I chose. Okay, so very quickly. First, he's promising he's never going to tell anyone which casket it was that he chose, in case another suitor wants to make the choice. The second promise, if I fail of the right casket, never in my life to woo a maid in the way of marriage. So the second promise, as we know, is that he's never going to get married. He's never going to woo a lady and marry her. And finally, if he fails, he has to leave straight away. So it's a reminder of the seriousness of the riddle. Again, he's a prince, like the Prince of Morocco. If he fails, he cannot produce an heir. Okay, so he cannot produce an heir. His title will pass out of his family line. Portia then says, yes, those are the things that you are swearing that come to hazard for my worthless self. She calls herself worthless here. I think she's trying to dissuade the prince from partaking in the riddle by reminding him that she is only a human. And Arragon ignores her. Okay, so he now does the exact same thing as the Prince of Morocco does when he is pondering which is the best casket to choose. So he looks at the lead casket first and reads the inscription, who chooseth me must give and hazard all he hath. He then says, you shall look fairer ere I give or hazard. So he thinks the case is too ugly, the casket's too ugly, he won't choose it. Then he looks at the golden chest, okay? Who chooseth me shall gain what many men desire. He's really disdainful of this chest. What many men desire, that many may be meant by the full multitude that choose by show. Like the martlet builds in the weather on the outward wall, even the force and road of casualty. I will not choose what many men desire, because I will not chomp with common spirits and rank me with the barbarous multitudes. All right, a couple of things here. First of all, a martlet is referring to a house martin, which is a bird. He's referring to the fact that house martins build nests normally in walls where they could be in danger from weather or from predators. So he's calling them stupid, first of all. And then he's talking about the fact that he's not going to choose the golden chest because it's the obvious choice and most people will choose it. Okay, it's the shallow choice. You immediately see it, you think gold is beautiful, you think Portia's beautiful, and therefore you choose the golden casket. He doesn't want to be one of the many. He is incredibly superior in his overall thoughts. All right, he thinks he's outsmarting the riddle by thinking in this way. I'm better than everybody. I'm not going to choose the casket that most people will choose. And then he looks at the silver casket and has this little rant. Let none presume to wear an undeserved dignity. Oh, that estates, degrees and offices were not derived corruptly, and that clear honour were purchased by the merit of the wearer. How many of them should cover that stand bare? How many be commended that command? How many low peasantry would then be gleaned from the true seed of honour? And how much honour picked from the chaff and ruin of the times to new varnished? Basically, how much better would the world be if everyone only took what they deserved? Oh, what a pretentious attitude to fortune and privilege does the Prince of Arragon have? Okay, he is essentially saying those who are fortunate and upper class deserve it, those who are not also deserve it. Reminds you of someone from Inspector Calls, I imagine. And then he obviously says, I assume I deserve it. Okay, he's assuming he's deserving. He's the Prince of Arragon. He's got loads of money. He's got loads of friends. He's got a title and wealth and all of these things. So he assumes that he must be deserving. Once again here, the kind of quest for love throughout A Merchant of Venice is linking explicitly to greed or to commerce. The Prince of Arragon isn't in love with Portia. Okay, and not once while he's choosing these caskets does he even mention Portia. He has basically no interest in her as a human being. Okay, it's again that kind of looking at women, looking at Portia as something valuable you want to possess, rather than a woman that you are in love with. Okay, so you again have that link to kind of, a business transaction, a trade deal, the fact that Portia herself is valuable, not because of who she is, but because of her wealth, her status. And then Arragon says, what's here? The portrait of a blinking idiot. Presenting me a schedule. I will read it. So again, the Prince of Arragon has, like the Prince of Morocco, opened his casket and found not a picture of Portia, but something else. It's not a skull this time, it's a idiotic picture. Okay, so a picture of a person looking like a fool. And he's very cross. He doesn't look anything like Portia. How much unlike to my hopes and my deservings. Who chooseth me shall have more as much as he deserves. Did I deserve no more than a fool's head? Is that my prize? Are my deserts no better? He talks about deserving things a lot at this point. Now, this could be played by the actor as comic or reflective. It's either really arrogant of the prince, being like, I deserve more than this one, or, and therefore funny for the audience, or he's having an epiphany. He's a bit sad. He's like, is this what I deserve? Introspective, looking at himself through another lens. Maybe I am indeed a fool. Portia then says, to offend and judge are distinct offices and of opposed natures. This kind of legal language is foreshadowing something later on in the play. Just pop a pin in that and remember it a little bit later. It could also be because Portia is obviously tied up in this incredibly complex contract that her father has drawn up in order to marry her off, that she's becoming more and more familiar with contract law because she would like to please get out of it. Arragon then reads the scroll that's been left in the casket, and it's essentially a rhyme that's mocking him as a fool and instructing him to leave. Okay, and obviously Arragon takes offence and flounces away. So, with one fool's head I came to woo, but I go away with two. Sweet adieu. I'll keep my oath patiently to bear my wrath. This again could either be played as sad and dignified or angry and offended. It depends on the actor and how much comedy the director wants in this particular scene. It could be played as very funny. It could be played as a moment of quiet introspection for the Prince of Arragon. And then he leaves in a much less dramatic fashion than the Prince of Morocco. Portia then says, thus hath the candle singed the moth. Essentially, he got burned, is what she's saying. So, as a moth is attracted to light and burned, both the princes chose poorly, attracted to more attractive caskets. The gold and the silver exposed the flaws in the suitors, essentially. Okay, they both chose them for the wrong reason. Neither of them chose a casket based on the fact that they love Portia. Okay, they both chose it for different reasons, either, for kind of glorification, gain of glory, or kind of a gain of status. All right, and then they draw the curtain and a servant comes in and announces that a young Venetian, one that comes before to signify the approaching of his lord, from whom he bringeth sensible greets, to wit, besides commands and courteous breath, gifts of rich value. It's obviously the arrival of Bassanio. Bassanio has come at last. Everyone is very excited. Portia then says, no more, I pray thee, I'm half afeard thou wilt say anon he is some kin to thee. Thou spent such a high day wit in praising him. The servant is praising Bassanio so highly, Portia is worried that the suitor is related to them. But she is very excited here. And Nerissa then says, Bassanio, Lord Love, if thy will it be. She's hoping very loudly and very excitedly that it's Bassanio. And that's the end of the scene. And we then begin Act 3.